Hello, I'm Michael Burke. Many of us are keen to find out about our family tree, but what if there was a pot of gold to be found at the end of it?
To find that you're part of an inheritance is quite a shock.
But I didn't think it was 1.3 million.
The heir hunters used genealogy to comb Britain with skilled detective work, searching for recipients of unexpected windfalls. Almost every day, extraordinary news comes out of the blue.
Suddenly to be thrust into this new family, it's been a real roller coaster of a ride, it really has.
I feel very proud of my father. He went through such a lot to give us what we've got today.
You never know when they might come knocking at your door.
Today, I'm at probate genealogy firm Fraser & Fraser, where the team took on a case riddled with complications that could see everything fall apart at any time. If that were to happen, the money in the estate would go to the government rather than rightful heirs.
So, Ben, what's involved in this case?
So we're looking into the heirs of Maureen Newydomyi, who died on the 28th of July, 2016.
But it's, it's quite an unusual name, to say the least. It's not Jones, it's not Smith, it's not Thomas. Shouldn't be too much of a problem?
It's an easy name, but we don't know where it's going to lead up. We never know what's going to be down the line or the complications that will be involved.
What's at stake here, though? I mean, the big question always, how much money's in the estate?
So we think that Maureen had approximately £40,000 in savings. We also think that she had property worth approximately £120,000. It's in a bit of a bad state. It's going to auction, so we never know what value it's going to go for.
But even so, it's quite a substantial amount of money, isn't it? So what does that mean in terms of competition amongst you guys?
We never know who's looking into it, so most likely.
So when you embark on this kind of case, what's the priority?
It's all about speed. It's all about accurate research.
Be interesting to see how it works out.
Indeed.
Maureen Newydomyi died aged 79, having lived in the same house in Coventry all her life. It was pretty dilapidated. Gerard, her neighbour for over 35 years, knew her better than most.
Me and Maureen, we meet every day. We are best friends and we talk every day. Very respectable, intelligent person.
Although they were good friends, Maureen kept much of her life private.
I never went inside the house. Now we talk outside for hours.
And Gerard never knew any of her family.
Very private person. She never mentioned the family. I miss her because she's a lovely person.
With no solid leads from the neighbours, back in the London office, researcher Isha picked up the case, but had to start her search for Maureen's close family from scratch.
So first of all, we found the deceased called Maureen Newydomyi and that she'd married Vladimir Newydomyi in 1962 in Coventry. We looked for children, but there wasn't any. But then I found out she'd been married before to Malcolm John Spracklen. So we knew that her maiden name was actually Patrick. So from looking at both of the marriages, we discovered there were no children of either.
The search then moved to see if Maureen had any brothers or sisters who'd be next in line to inherit.
We ordered Maureen's birth certificate to see who the parents were, to make it easier for us to see whether she did have any siblings. As we can see, Maureen, she's born the 20th of July 37, so we know it's correct. Father is William Patrick and mother is Eva May Patrick, formerly Reddick. So we did a birth search, Patrick to Reddick, to see whether she had any siblings, and she had two sisters called Patricia and Jane.
This was a good start, as any of Maureen's surviving siblings would be direct heirs. But when Isha looked into the records for Maureen's two sisters, it wasn't good news.
Unfortunately, they died infant.
With Maureen losing not one but two sisters at the ages of 2 and 9, there were no other close family members to look for.
So then we have to look into both the parents' sides to see if we can find anyone to inherit.
If the team were to find any heirs to this potentially high-value estate, they had to move back a generation. It was vital that they searched for any other children that Maureen's grandparents may have had. These potential aunts and uncles could provide Maureen with cousins, the missing pieces of the puzzle.
Isha, this is getting to be quite a tricky case, isn't it?
Yeah.
What did you find out about Maureen on her father's side?
So her father was called William Patrick, and he was born in 1914 in Birmingham. When we looked, his father's surname was Patrick, obviously, and his mother's surname was Hodgetts.
Now, Patrick is quite a... not common, but it's around, isn't it?
There are a few of them, yeah,
not
definitely.
too difficult. But Hodgetts gives you a bit more traction, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the combination is quite good. So we quite easily established that he was one of 4 children.
Oh, right, OK. So that's where you go on to now. What were they called?
Albert, Annie and Alfred.
All A's?
All A's, apart from our William.
OK. Who did you start with?
We started with Annie.
Yeah.
And as you can see, she died... she was born March quarter 17, died March quarter 17.
So only lived a matter of days. A lot of deaths in this family, aren't there? Young infant deaths. So what about Maureen's uncle Alfred?
So Alfred, we couldn't find a marriage for him, couldn't find a death for him, couldn't find him alive. And then we looked and saw the fact he's born 1920 and we can't find anything on him. He was of age to be in the Second World War.
So born in 1920, Second World War breaks out in 1939 when he would be 19, so he could have been.
So we had a look and we found this war record here.
Oh, it's a death.
Yeah.
Of Private Alfred Patrick, age 19, still only 19, died in May 1940, which was when the Second World War really took off and the German blitzkrieg into Belgium and France. 8th Battalion, the Royal Warwickshire Regiment, just one of the casualties. Died at the age of 19. God.
Alfred Patrick was part of the expeditionary force defending Belgium following the German invasion in May 1940. 500,000 British troops joined forces with French and Belgian armies and were attacked by the massive German forces, backed by over 2,000 tanks and artillery. Alfred was killed on the 25th of May 1940, trying to defend the town of Boulogne from the Nazi advance. He was buried in the Calonne communal cemetery, along with 70 of his comrades. So, unfortunately, 2 of 4 children born to deceased Maureen's grandparents, Ernest and Annie, died without having children of their own.
So, every lead you've got in this case seems to end in a sad ending. What about Maureen's other uncle here, Albert?
So Albert looked promising because he's married twice. He marries Violet and Elsie. And then when we looked for children from both of the marriages, there wasn't any. So he actually ended up, even though marrying twice, had no children.
So you've got nowhere on the paternal side. What's the worst case scenario for you?
Well, the worst case scenario is there'll be nothing on the maternal side, so then that's the end of it for us.
And what does that mean?
It means that the money will go to the government rather than to the family members, because we don't have any.
The team may have hit a dead end on the paternal side, but they weren't ready to give up. And across town, company boss Andrew Fraser was busy attending the auction of the dilapidated property Maureen had left behind. A big sale today would vastly increase the windfall due to any heirs.
So we're in central London today for Auction House London's public sale, where at lot 109, Mrs. Newydomyi's home in Coventry will be offered for sale. It's a terrace house, but it's in a very poor condition and needs an investor to come and refurbish the property. We're hoping it will sell somewhere around the £95,000 mark.
As there are no heirs on Maureen's father's side of the family, the team concentrated their efforts on her mother's side. With the chances of finding an heir reduced by half, the stakes were getting higher.
So now everything was resting on the maternal side, and if we didn't find any heirs on that side, then we'd have to close the case.
From a search of the records, Isha found Maureen's mother's birth certificate, which revealed her parents' names.
So Maureen's maternal grandparents were Robert Reddick and Lily Butler, and they married in 1907 in Coventry. So unlike Patrick, Reddick was actually a really good name to research because it's not very common, and the fact that they all stayed in the Coventry area made it even easier for us.
Isha also spotted something unusual.
On the marriage certificate of Robert and Lily, you can see they're both machinists and they both lived at the same address.
In fact, Robert Reddick and Lily Butler, Maureen's maternal grandparents, both worked in Coventry's main industry of the time, bicycle production.
Well, really, from the beginning, Coventry was the centre, and then it spread immediately to the rest of the Black Country, and then Nottingham, London, elsewhere. By the 1890s, there were 150 cycle companies employing some 45,000 people in different trades.
Robert and Lily would have been making some of the very first bicycles for wealthy Edwardians.
The standard bicycle was black enamelled, but the shiny parts were nickel. A lot of people doing manual labour, polishing, plating, and finally lacquering to produce the finished article.
The reality of life as polishers and machinists on the production line would have been tough for Maureen's grandparents.
You're working in conditions where if you're polishing, you're raising dust, so it can't have been that pleasant.
But unlike some other industries of the time, it wasn't just men on the factory floor.
Men and women, I think, would have worked together in certain cycle factories. It's obviously quite possible that a couple should have met at work.
Without the invention of the bicycle, Maureen's grandparents might never have met. Back at the office, the team were under immense pressure to find heirs on Maureen's mother's side of the family as they scoured the birth indexes for any children that Robert and Lily may have had. But as the team delved into Robert's records, they discovered something interesting.
So having a look at other records, we found that Maureen's grandfather, Robert Reddick, was also in the army in the Worcestershire Regiment.
With the arrival of the First World War, Robert's regular Coventry life was about to take an unexpected turn. He seems to have rebelled against it.
So I found a record where he appears to have been court-martialed for bad conduct. It looks from these records that he was a bit of a naughty soldier.
Usually, the heir hunters take on cases where somebody has died intestate without leaving a will and try as hard as they can to track down long-lost relatives. But even when a will has been left, the heir hunters are sometimes called in to investigate. The team at Finders International have taken on one such case, the estate of 52-year-old Christopher Cole.
Right, yeah, I know, yeah. So this is the case of Christopher Ewan Thornton Cole. Now, the reason this case is a little bit different from others that we work is that Christopher did leave a will. His estate has already been dealt with, which means that referral has been made to us by a firm of solicitors. And they've told us that there's this sum, £60,000, which is being paid out from the pension he had with the Royal Mail.
As a post office employee, Christopher had tucked away a pension throughout his working life. But due to a clause in the contract, the money couldn't be passed to the beneficiaries he'd named in his will. Instead, the £60,000 fund needs to be given to his next of kin, assuming he has any relatives who are still alive. To try and find them, the team need to get to work fast.
We're going to follow the same steps that we would do as if it was an intestate case, as if there wasn't a will, just to try and find out who Christopher's next of kin are.
Christopher Cole was born on the 5th of August 1964. For most of his life, he lived in the Thanet area of Kent and worked as a manager for Royal Mail. His colleagues at the sorting office remember him fondly.
Chris worked for the Royal Mail all his life, so it was his first job. So when he left school, he started with Royal Mail. He was very, very private, knew very little about him as a person, except for the fact that he really liked church. He looked after his mum and dad 100%. He looked after the elderly ladies around where he lived and did their gardening. And he really was quite empathetic with staff, and people knew that if they had a problem or an issue, that they could go to him and he would try and support them.
As a manager, Chris is very fair, but very firm, so he did everything to the book, as long as you went along with that. He looked after you, and he always looked out for the staff.
He always wore a shirt and a tie, always, and he always had a big coat, which was always way too big for him. All the things that he did, I miss him. We all miss his funny little ways.
Although Chris's friends weren't able to provide any clues about family members, back in London, Ryan Gregory and the team were off to a head start with information from Chris's solicitor.
So the good thing for us is that we have a lot more information than we would have otherwise in different situations. We've got Christopher's date of birth and date of death. We've also been notified by the solicitors that he never married and that he didn't have any children. So obviously the first thing for us to do will be to just verify that.
In the heir hunting game, it always pays to be sceptical.
Presumably we won't find anything, but obviously we have to double check. And if we do find a marriage, obviously we can then do a search for any potential children.
The team get to work scouring the records.
Holly, if you can start looking at actually the maternal and paternal, just in case, because...
And soon verify what they've discovered.
We've searched the marriage indexes and we didn't find a marriage that relates to him, so that confirms the information that he was a bachelor. Likewise, we have ordered some certificates for potential siblings of Christopher, and they have come back as not correct. They're not part of his family.
With no children or brothers and sisters found, the team had to spread their net wider to investigate Christopher's maternal and paternal family lines.
So what have we got? So he's emailed into us.
Ryan quickly established who Christopher's parents were from his birth certificate.
Christopher's father was called Jack Arthur Cole. His mother was Lilla Margaret Cole, formerly Ferguson.
But there was a spanner in the works.
We've had the surnames Smith on the maternal side and Cole and Jones on the paternal side. Now, Cole on one side, Smith on the other. They're two of the most common surnames in the country.
The discovery of those names, Smith and Cole, two of the most common names in the United Kingdom, makes it very hard to find family members and was potentially disastrous for research.
I wasn't sure if we checked 39 register for the parents, but...
The tricky surnames could be a major setback, but Ryan spots something that could offer a glimmer of hope.
Looking at both parents, we're quite lucky that both seem to have middle names, so we're hoping that that trend is replicated across the family. It's going to make it a lot easier for us to search through the records if we're looking at someone with a middle name as opposed to without.
And further research into Christopher's mother's family revealed something interesting.
The maternal surname is Ferguson. Now, this is a surname that's more prevalent in Scotland, so I don't know whether there's going to be any links to Scotland during the research.
While the team got on the phone and searched the records for a Scottish connection, Ryan began to look for any siblings that Christopher's mother, Lilla, might have had.
Her dad's surname was Ferguson, and her mother's surname was Smith.
Cross-referencing the birth indexes with the names, Ryan made an exciting discovery.
It was a surprise to us to find out that Lilla had a brother. His name was Ronald Adam Ferguson. We know from his records that he was actually a dance teacher, and he was living in the Kent area.
Having established that Ronald had been married before he died, Ryan had tracked down and spoken to his brother-in-law in the hope of learning new information about family members.
Thank you very much for your timing for confirming. Thanks, cheers, bye-bye. He did confirm that Ronald and his wife didn't have any children. He did say that Ronald was too busy dancing to have any children, so that was a nice bit of information that we found. And you know, once we heard that, that was all we really needed to close our investigations into the maternal side of the family.
So Ronald's line had gone cold and the team had hit a brick wall. With no other aunts and uncles to look into, their options had run out on the maternal side. All hope now rested on Christopher's father's side of the family.
So we're hopefully going to have some better luck on the paternal side of the family so we can find some beneficiaries to these funds.
Every year in Britain, thousands of ordinary people get an unexpected knock on the door from heir hunters.
I found that amazing, that I had that side of the family that I didn't know existed.
Over the years, the heir hunters have given fortunes to the heirs that they find. As well as the unexpected windfalls, they also reunite relatives.
A little bit shocked to find out that I had a long-lost relative.
There are still hundreds of estates left unclaimed. Listen carefully for the names. If you recognise yours, then one of them could rightfully belong to you.
Today we've got details of 2 estates on the government legal department's unclaimed estates list. The first case is Lillian Frances Mutum, who died on the 16th of January 1988 in Braintree, Essex. Lillian married Cecil Claude James Mutum in Westminster, London. She was born in Lurgan in Northern Ireland in 1914, but the majority of people with the Mutum surname have lived in the Suffolk area. Could you be part of Lillian's family? The next case is Alice May Perry, who died on the 16th of October 1989 in Aylesbury Vale, Buckinghamshire. Alice was born on the 31st of July 1914, and her maiden name was Marnie. The surname Marnie is found almost exclusively in the Irish province of Munster. Perhaps you're part of the Marnie family.
If so, a windfall could be coming your way.
At heir hunting firm Fraser & Fraser in London, Ben Cornish and the team were under extreme pressure to find any living heirs on the case of Maureen Newydomyi.
The informant on her death is actually deceased.
So unfortunately, it looks like William Patrick's side has completely died out. So then we have to move on to the mother's side and hopefully we'll find someone that way.
If they couldn't find any heirs here, Maureen's estate would end up in government coffers. The estate was made up of Maureen's £40,000 savings and her home in Coventry.
If you have any questions off the back of that, then do just get in contact.
In London, her house is about to be auctioned off to the highest bidder.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we now go to lot 109. Another probate sale. It's 116 Grangemouth Road in Coventry. It's a vacant 2-bedroom mid-terrace house. It's guiding at £95,000, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how this one plays out. For lot 109, start me off at £90,000.
With company partner Andrew Fraser on hand at the auction, the hope is for a healthy interest in the property to push up the price and increase the overall value of the estate.
Thank you. 1-3. 1-4. Excellent. 1-5.
As the bidding gets underway, the price goes up fast.
All right, the bid's with you, gents, sat down at 112,000. If not for the very first time, then at 112, you're out. Now's your last moment to get in for another £500. If not, at £112,000, are we all done? Sold to you two. Well done at 112,000.
It's a really good result. For the beneficiaries, they get this additional funds over and above what we originally expected.
It's great news for the team, as it's all money in the pot for Maureen's heirs. In the office, as Maureen's father's side of the family turned out to have no living heirs, all hopes of a result were pinned on the maternal side.
If that side had died out as well, then we'd have to close the case.
Working back into her family tree, the team had uncovered some shocking information about Maureen's soldier grandfather, Robert Reddick.
So I found a record where he appears to have been court-martialed for bad conduct. It looks from these records that he was a bit of a naughty soldier.
Despite Robert Reddick's court-martial and trial, Isha couldn't find any prison record.
I didn't come across any records saying that he'd later been imprisoned. If I had, it may have unfortunately been the end of this family line.
Escaping a prison sentence meant that hopefully Robert had gone on to have more children, other than Maureen's mother, Eva. Isha and the team delved into the records for Robert and Lily, searching for evidence of any children they may have had, and they couldn't quite believe what they found.
Looking at the maternal side, we were quite pleased because there was 9 children from the Reddick to Butler marriage.
With 8 children, in addition to Maureen's mother, Eva, to look into, the chances of finding an heir were suddenly very good. But as with the paternal side, it wasn't plain sailing.
So what we found quite quickly is one of the children had died before 1911. 2 of them had no children, so we had 5 aunts and uncles that had married and gone on to have children.
There were Maureen's maternal aunt and uncles, Lillian, Robert, John, Francis and Morris, left to look into. Isha and the team started to search the marriage and birth records. And at that point, everything changed.
You had to work really hard on this case, didn't you, Isha? Please tell me that out of all this, you did manage to come up with some heirs. Where did you start?
So as you can see here, Robert John Reddick, who's an uncle of Maureen.
Yeah.
He marries Emily S. Proverbs.
Extraordinary name, yeah.
And they had 2 children. One died in infancy.
Yet another died in infancy, only a year older.
Exactly. And then Sylvia went on to marry and have our first heir.
Your first heir?
Yeah.
Hooray! Well done. Oh, fantastic.
So we're on to something now.
You're on a roll now. Now, OK, what about the others?
So Lillian marries Thomas Alexander Merry.
Yeah.
And they have 1 son.
Yeah.
Robert, and they have 2 children.
So what did you find out about them?
So Andrew, we found out was a soldier.
Like his great-grandfather? Who was a disgrace as a soldier, wasn't he? Court-martialed and everything.
Yeah, so luckily...
What about Andrew?
Andrew was a bit more distinguished, and when we were trying to find an address for him, it actually come up as one of the most famous addresses you can get.
I was intrigued to discover that the team had tracked down Andrew Merry, Maureen's cousin twice removed, who lived in the grounds of the Tower of London. After 25 years as a Royal Marine Commando and with a spotless military record, Andrew had the privilege of becoming a yeoman warder, or beefeater as they're sometimes known, guarding the world-famous London Monument.
Then go inside this building, because they're the things that are unpleasant when lots of people are here. This huge building here dates from 1845, and this is where the crown jewels are now kept. The one to my left here is the Tower of London. It's a royal palace, and this is where the kings and queens of this country lived for almost 600 years. Nobody really knows why we're called beefeaters, but we were paid in meat hundreds of years ago, 20 ounces of meat per day, and we were also able to eat what was left of the king's table. The people outside the tower certainly couldn't have afforded such a luxury. To become a yeoman warder, it's quite simple. All we have to do is a minimum of 22 years' service in the Majesty's Armed Forces. So I was a Royal Marines Commando for 25 years, and we also have to hold a long service and the Good Conduct Medal to show that we've got long and honourable service to the Crown. Or, in my case, we weren't caught doing anything wrong.
All of which is a world away from the military service of Andrew's great-grandfather, Robert Reddick, who he knows a little about.
I did my own personal research online and discovered his military records from the First World War. He was quite often getting charged for insubordination and for coming back to camp a little bit worse for wear. So I'm quite proud of him, actually.
For Andy, being contacted by the heir hunters was quite a surprise.
I was quite excited, but not so much about any money or anything like that. We've been trying to research our family for some time and hit a lot of dead ends. And so we're much more excited about maybe finding out more about the family. I'd never heard of Maureen. It would have been nice to know her.
Back at the office, Isha and the team's hard work had eventually paid off.
So initially we were worrying that we weren't going to have any heirs, but as it turned out, on the mother's side, sprung up quite a few heirs because luckily 5 of the aunts and uncles were having children, so we were happy with that.
For team leader Ben, it had been a fascinating and unexpected case.
We have a great-grandson who has an exemplary record in the military and goes on to be a beefeater. On the other hand, we have his great-grandfather who has more questionable time in the army and is court-martialed, so we have 2 very different experiences of the same occupation.
At the Tower of London, Heir Andy has been on an exciting journey into his own family's past.
This experience has most certainly made me want to look further into the family. I'd very much like to find out a little bit about this, or as much as possible actually, about this branch of the family, certainly.
I'm at heir hunting firm Finders International, where the team was struggling to find heirs on the case of Christopher Cole. Christopher lived in Kent and had a long career as a manager for the Postal Service.
It was his first job, so when he left school, he started with Royal Mail.
Chris never really talked about hobbies or anything he did outside of work. I think he lived to work.
Although he left a will when he died, Post Office rules dictated that his £60,000 pension must be passed to his next of kin. So the search was on to find any surviving relatives.
Ryan, you drew a blank with Christopher's mother's side.
That's correct. So we'd already spent quite a lot of time and energy on the Ferguson and Smith side of the family, which is the mother's side of the family. So all our hopes were pinned on trying to find someone on the Cole side of the family.
This pension pot, £60,000, you know, pretty reasonable amount of money, isn't it? What would have been the consequences if you don't find an heir on the father's side?
From our point of view as a company, I mean, all the work done to date would just be for nothing.
So how did you get on?
We did notice as soon as we were looking into the Cole side of the family, we had Christopher's grandparents, Leslie Arthur Cole. He married Constance Jones, another very common surname.
So you've got a Cole and a Jones.
A Cole and a Jones.
You're not lucky there, are you?
Not at all. We've hit some really difficult surnames on this case from the beginning.
At least you're starting to put together the family tree, aren't you?
We were then able to develop a bit of the family tree, yeah. So we knew already Christopher's father was called Jack. We were beginning to get a few certificates into the office, and we noticed something very interesting from the occupations throughout the family.
Oh, what? Ah, no, this is Leslie Arthur Cole. That's Christopher's grandfather?
That's correct.
And you're right. He's a postman. He's a postman, just like his grandson, of 76 Lebanon Road, Croydon. Postman. Well, how extraordinary.
So we have Leslie, like you say, as a postman. We'd already had this certificate as well, which showed that Christopher's father,
this is
Jack,
Christopher's birth certificate, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah, you got earlier on, yeah.
And we can
that's
see
his
his
dad.
occupation there.
Oh, his dad has got GPO written against it as well. Overseer, GPO, that General Post Office, what they used to call the post office in my day. So, you've got the grandfather, you've got the father, and you've got Christopher himself, all in the Postal Service, ran in the family. How many letters must they have actually delivered in those 3 generations, I wonder?
And I think, you know, we know that Christopher's pension came from the Royal Mail, so, like you say, a lot of letters delivered, 3 generations in the Postal Service. I think he very much deserved that pension.
And you're starting to get somewhere.
We were.
With a history dating as far back as the 1500s, the Postal Service has played an important part in society for centuries. At the beginning of the 1900s, when Leslie Arthur Cole was working as a postman, it was a highly respected job.
Working for the Postal Service, even today, has a sense of pride and a sense of kind of belonging to an organisation with a long history. Certainly in the 1930s, it was considered a good job to have. It was a job that many people sort of sought.
In the 1940s, when Christopher's grandfather was working in the service, world events made it a dangerous but highly important occupation.
During the Second World War, the job of the Postal Service was vital. So people were having to keep in touch with family members who were serving in countries all around the globe, and also on ships in the Navy, of course. So the Postal Service had that job of getting those messages delivered to those people, and for having those messages coming back home.
Working in the Postal Service has been a family affair for Christopher's relatives.
Chris Cole followed in his father and his grandfather's footsteps in working for the Postal Service. Chris worked in Deal in Kent and his father worked in Margate, and it was very common for family members to get jobs for other family. It wasn't unusual to see several generations of a family working for the Postal Service.
And being a postman at the time Christopher's grandfather was working came with some welcome benefits.
The Postal Service at the time, as a government department, offered a pension, which is not something that every job offered. At the age of 60, if you'd been working for the Postal Service, you were able to draw a pension from the government in return for the service you'd done. So that was something else that made the job appeal to people.
With a Postal Service pension pot waiting to be passed down the family lines, the team were working hard to try and find other children that Christopher's paternal grandparents, Leslie and Constance, may have had. These aunts and uncles could be the next link to heirs.
Luckily for us, we could use the very useful 1939 register that did have Leslie and Constance on there.
Unfortunately, this record turned out to be another dead end.
The only paternal aunt, Mary Cole, was born in 1929 and she passed away in the same year, so sadly we didn't have any further research to do in that section of the family tree.
The news that Mary Cole had died in infancy was a big blow for the team. But they also discovered Leslie and Constance had a third child.
They had a son who was listed, a Derek L. Cole.
Everything was now riding on any children that Christopher's uncle Derek may have had.
So here we have the various certificates. I'm just looking for the marriage of the paternal uncle, Derek Leslie Cole, because I want to confirm who Derek's father was and his age, so I can tie it in to definitely know he's correct.
Fortunately for Ryan, his luck was in.
We found a potential marriage in Thanet in Kent, and we know there's links to this area through the other sections of the family.
Having established that Derek Cole married Barbara Rees on Christmas Eve in 1952, Ryan now had potential beneficiaries within his grasp.
It was really all hinged on Derek having surviving descendants.
And on checking the birth indexes, Ryan found what he was looking for.
Now, I do have his possible daughter's birth, so I'm also going to have another look to make myself more confident that they are related to this family.
Although Ryan hoped he'd found the correct Derek Cole, he couldn't quite be sure. The only way to prove it beyond doubt was to order some more certificates and check them against his records, but they'd take time to arrive. All he could do was wait. After an anxious night, next morning the certificates were in, and finally Ryan had the news he needed to move the case on.
So we've got the certificate in. This is the key document I was waiting for to confirm Susan and Jacqueline as beneficiaries to this pension fund. I was slightly concerned that maybe they were related to a different Derek Leslie Cole before, but this marriage certificate says Derek Leslie Cole, age 18, in 1952, which ties in with the age that he should have been, and his father was Leslie Arthur Cole, who is the correct father for him. So now I can go ahead, we can send a rep out to Susan and Jacqueline and let them know that the cousin had this money that's yet to be claimed.
He now felt certain he'd found the correct Derek Cole. Ryan dispatched Howard, one of the company's travelling reps, to pay a visit to Derek's daughter, Jacqueline.
Hi, Howard. It's Ryan in the office. I'm going to send you over some details. There's a couple of people that we need you to go and visit.
Right, today we're off to see a prospective beneficiary in Sandwich in Kent. It's always a question mark of how they're going to react when you're going to tell them of a relation who's passed away. So you have to deal with that first, but at the same time, you have to establish who they are, because you don't want to tell the wrong person that somebody else has passed away. And then hopefully to get indoors and then talk through about the family, what they knew, how close or not they were, and how it's really affected them, but all the time being conscious that You know, you're actually talking about a relation who's passed away. We're looking for number 8.
As one of only 2 heirs in this case, a lot was riding on Jacqueline being who the team thought she was, and Howard's ability to sign her up.
Hello there, my name's Kleinberg. I'm trying to contact Jacqueline. Well, that's yourself, is it? Well, it's sadly about your cousin Christopher, Christopher Cole. You know he's passing?
I do know, yeah.
Right, well, what we'd like to do is come in and chat for a few things. He did have a will, but there's an asset out with the will, of which you and your sister Susan should be beneficiaries. So perhaps if we could come in and have a chat about it, if that's right. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. As I started to explain, it's about the passing, really, of Christopher Cole.
After Howard had fully explained the situation, Jacqueline was happy to sign on the dotted line and receive her inheritance of almost half of Christopher's £60,000 pension pot.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. And once again, thank you very much.
She hadn't seen Christopher since she was a child. The news came as quite a surprise.
I'm really sad to sort of go have something from Christopher in that it means he's passed. But obviously I'm quite surprised and excited that, you know, he may have left something for me and my sister.
It was great news for Jacqueline and a job well done for Howard.
That went quite well. It was the right person. It is the beneficiary that we was hoping for. Given us information about her sister, contact details. She's glad of our help, I think. I hope that's another case solved and we can move onward.
Back at the office, the team were wrapping up the case.
This case started off relatively tricky for us, given that we ran into the surnames Cole and Jones and Smith. But once we progressed the case, it wasn't a huge family. We were able to find just 2 claimants to the pension pot of Christopher Cole, and they would both share the funds of £60,000.
Although Christopher's money had finally found its way to rightful heirs, for Ryan, this case highlighted an important lesson.
So the case of Christopher Cole is a good example of why people should not only maybe write a will, but also have a full review of their financial assets. You know, usually if someone had a property or something, this would go through their estate. But in this case, we had this pension fund, and the clause relevant to us on the pension fund was that the funds would go not through the estate, but to his next of kin.
For Jacqueline, the heir who stood to inherit a substantial windfall out of the blue, it wasn't all about the money.
I'm really excited about finding out more about the family tree, and the fact that heir hunters have turned up at this point is really good for me. You know, as in, I've been looking at the family tree for about 3 or so years and come up with quite a bit of information through different sites online. But this is quite an exciting time now that I can have things added to it.
What an interesting case Christopher Cole's was. And it just goes to show, even when there's a will and you're not in it, there could still be a chance of a windfall coming your way. So with more cases solved, the heir hunters move on. And who knows, it could be you in for a surprise visit. Until next time, goodbye.